So one fine afternoon in the middle of the city, a kaiju with a fortitude of 3.5 appeared. The defense force was dispatched against it. After confirming no civilians were in the vicinity, they began launching their assault. Following the stunning of the missiles, a unit skydived from the heli. She landed with badassery and moved to find a better position. More personnel joined and began poking at the kaiju, shaving off its HP bit by bit while also creating distraction for their captain to get into position. She didn't disappoint. Poor kaiju goes pop and it's now raining flesh and blood. The personnel have their parade as they get showered with praise and admiration from the civilians and reporters. On the other side, there's another group of people busied themselves with the cleaning of the battlefield while also having to dissect the kaiju. Amongst the dissectors, the least desirable area to dissect was the intestines, reason being, it's full of shit. Regardless, our professional MC Kafka still finished his work professionally. So apparently the badass female captain from earlier was a childhood friend of Kafka. Next morning, a new recruit joined the cleaning crew and was assigned to dissect the intestines. Funnily enough, Kafka got assigned there again due to how well he does it. Both of them lost their appetite for lunch. Kafka gave the newcomer some liquid food along with some nose blocks, also passionately tried to shove it in for him. Later that afternoon, he thanked Kafka for his enlightenment and informed him of the Defense Force recruitment age had been leewayed to age 33. Kafka had him get to safety and call the Defense Force while he stayed behind to take on the Yoju. That being said though, he didn't actually go one-on-one with it, spent all his time running away from it. Luckily, the 3rd Division was in the area. They got their asses saved and was sent to the hospital. While recuperating, Kafka had an unexpected visitor. While he stared at it in confusion, it got really passionate and shoved itself into Kafka. After much immense struggling with the pain, they assimilated and Kafka turned into a kaiju himself. Anyway, Captain Mina was in her bath reminiscing about her past with Kafka, like how he promised her that he will fight kaiju by her side. But her flashback was interrupted by a phone call regarding a kaiju that appeared in a hospital, and she was to exterminate it. So the 3rd Division was geared up and ready to sortie under Captain Mina. The duo got caught by an elderly, and was trying to prove that he's a friendly. Sent the elderly to Valhalla instead. In addition to that, Kafka was also having difficulties controlling his strength in his kaiju form. After some demolition, they managed to escape. New issue now is maintaining his form, probably due to hunger, since he returned to normal after eating a live crow. Following after was an urge to urinate, but the usual tool was missing. It got elevated to his nipples. While he was crying his embarrassment away, he felt the presence of a Yoju nearby. The 3rd Division picked up the signal too and split their force. At the location, a mom was stuck under some debris while her daughter struggles to get her out. The mom begged for the girl to run, but the girl refused to leave her mom behind. Just before she became a snack, Kafka arrived with his fist and sent the Yoju flying. Tried checking on the girl, but she got frightened by his appearance. Tried smiling, but made things worse. Situation improved after Reno arrived. After saving the mom, the Yoju returned for its snacks. Kafka had Reno bring the civilians to safety while he stayed back to test his strength. The blood-drenched Kafka looked even more frightening, but the girl stopped him and told him, "Arigato." Hearing that, the once extinguished fire in him lit up again. That solidified his determination to become an officer and to stand by her side. When the 3rd Division arrived, they learned from the little girl that there was a good kaiju that saved her mom. And they came up with a sketch of it based on her testimony. It was then given the alias Kaiju No. 8. Next day at work, Kafka and Reno received the results for their Defense Force enrollment exams. They both have passed the written exams. Reno was eager to tell Kafka the good news.
What's that?
He still can't fully control his body apparently. Reno gave him his results and learned that the physical exam is where he normally fails. Although he has resolved himself as this is his last chance before he has passed the requirement age, Reno was worried that he might expose himself in public. At the examination venue, Kafka and Reno arrive with their company car. We got a quick glance on some potential candidates for the exam, and a twin tails calling Kafka an old man. Basically, she wanted his car spot despite the empty parking lot because her lucky number today is 5. After getting refused, she started up her power suit, and that allowed her to lift the truck and tossed it out. She gave them a brief introduction and moved in on Kafka for a sniff. So Reno played it off as them working in kaiju disposal. Kafka and his childish nature wanted to one-up Kikoru, ended up using his kaiju powers. Glad Kikoru only thought he has a private suit too. As they bicker, her butler swiftly took up the parking spot. She decided she will one-up him again later during the exam and left with her entourage. Reno lectured him again for using his powers and warned to send him home if he used his powers again, even if it's just partially.
Hey.
So second stage of the exam consists of fitness and aptitude tests. Fitness-wise, Kafka was quite obviously falling behind other examinees despite his 3 months of extreme training, probably due to his older age. Kikoru didn't let this chance go, came to assert her superiority, had her fun and left satisfied. Meanwhile, Kafka was left devastated. Hoshino was in the office briefing Mina of the potential candidates of this batch, namely, Haru who ranked second for fitness, Iharu who ranked third, Aoi who ranked first, and the center of attention, dubbed the greatest talent ever, Kikoru. Kafka got too excited for her, ended getting jumped by her bodyguards. He was adamant he would one-up her eventually today. Apparently, the last stage has been Kaiju Corpse disposal for the past few years. That being said, venue seemed off when Hoshina finally announced the objective of the final stage was to neutralize kaijus. Their held-on hope was then shattered. Before that, they were each given combat suits made from kaiju materials. These suits adjust itself to its wearer and massively multiplies their combat powers, depending on how much they can draw out its powers. Reno was at 8%, Haru was at 18, Aoi was at 15, Iharu was at 14, and the highest was Kikoru at 46%, making her already at the level of a platoon leader and created the highest record for a new recruit. Meanwhile, the lowest record was also created at 0% by Kafka. He tried his best to push it out while Hoshino laughs his ass off behind the screen. All jokes aside, Hoshina gave them some briefing and warnings, and how they will track by drones, how their suit has a safety shield which they can initiate manually if they deem fit, but by that also meant failure to pass. At the start of the signal, Kikoru easily broke off from the pack and secured her first target. Some stared with admiration, some cannot even lift his rifle. Kafka eventually gave up on offense and switched solely to support. As he roamed around the battlefield with Reno, they came across Aoi and Haru struggling with a kaiju. He threw a stun grenade at it, and while it stunned, he quickly directed them to shoot its stomach. Following his instructions, they concentrated their shots there and the kaiju would pop shortly after. He got his thanks and moved on to find his next target. Both Mina and Hoshino was impressed by his support. While they strategized, some of his vitals went red. Operator was ready to activate his shield, just as he was about to be devoured. Kikoru doesn't let anyone quit when she's on the battlefield. While she continued her rampage, Kafka was advised to drop out with his internal injuries, fractures, and a broken leg. He refused the advice, forced himself to stand up with his injuries, and even managed to unleash 0.01% of the suit's power. So with Kafka's insistence, Hoshina permitted him to continue. Reno also offered him his support. Next thing we know, Kafka was riding on Reno's shoulders while they embarrassingly roam across the battlefield. Gave Hoshina another quality laughing his ass off session. was even faster. Thus, the final stage of the exam is now over with Kafka and Reno making no further contribution. Hoshina expected a rough 30 to drop out, but thanks to Kokoro sweeping the battlefield so swiftly, there were 0 casualties. Just as he called her the ray of hope for this country, a man-sized kaiju appeared. All the dead kaiju started resurrecting. Kokoro barely survived by solidifying the shield on her heart. The kaiju was surprised to see Kokoro survive. Kokoro was also surprised to see the kaiju talk, knew he was a threat and took action. Her vitals were all red at this point. The revived kaiju got stronger and is now at fortitude 6.4. Mina ordered for an evacuation and sortied with Hoshina. The shroom-headed kaiju left, but Kokoro was no longer in battle condition. Just as she was on death's door, her regrets triggered flashbacks from time when she was still a child. She has always been the best of the best, but lack of fatherly love and acknowledgement made her a girl with daddy issue. The drone got to her, but Mina and Hoshino were still far from her. The kaiju charges for a finisher while she had lost all hope and has accepted her fate. After a flash of purple explosion went off, the familiar back of an old man stood in front of her and transformed into a kaiju himself. Aoi guided scattered examinees with signal flares for evacuation while Haru and Iharo held off the kaijus. Kafka was begging Kokoro to keep his kaiju identity a secret. The asswipe thought he was Gojo and launched another purple. The annoyed Kafka readies his serious punch. Though cams were destroyed, the drone still managed to pick up an energy level of 9.8, and according to Hoshina, this would make him the strongest kaiju in history were it real. What's that? Despite his badassery, he still had to beg for the kaiju to not resurrect. Protected Kokoro from some strays and made her felt at ease with his smile. Just as he rizzed her good, Reno came lecturing for exposing his kaiju identity. While they bickered, the exhausted Kokoro went unconscious. By the time the 3rd Division arrived, just a bloody mess was left on scene. The MC squad had made it back to base. Hoshino was skeptical that Kokoro did this, but can't exactly think of a logical reason. He suspects this is somewhat linked to what happened 3 months ago. Captain Mina came and offered her thanks to Kafka and Reno for saving Kokoro, but they pretended to be strangers. Hoshino went to inquire the recuperating Kokoro on what happened on site. She didn't expose Kafka and claimed she was the one who killed the kaiju. Meanwhile, Shroomhead was hiding in a public restroom listening to the news, and was shocked to hear there was 0 casualties despite his tinkering. Anyway, he took over a human form and is blending in with the kaiju disposal guys.